I think that the great task falls on us, the voter and the citizen. Now, when we're going towards 2023, we have to look at these separate political parties, then ask ourselves the question: this structure, what will it mean for a government that is coming in? Would I want a government? Because you should understand one thing: what they have as a political structure is most probably what they're going to migrate and build as a government. They are going to feed their government from those same structures. So as we go towards that ballot box, this is where we're supposed to ask ourselves the question: does this structure that they've adopted at this time serve me well in terms of government? And does it agree with any documentation that they have set down and agreed and say, this is our set of rules, this is how we govern our structures? Are they respecting that? Are they respecting that in their own political formation, that when they transfer into a government or when they continue to be a government for the incumbent, they will be able to service us and to be able to respect the rule of law? Those are the questions that we're supposed to ask as an informed voter. We're also supposed to ask for those that are denying that they have such structures, whether they've formed intentionally or have been formed by a cause of nature. For those that are denying, what is it? Why is it that they are denying, and what does it mean for me, the voter? I think we have to get to that level of participation as the electors. We have to get to that level of participation and make informed decisions, because I think we have ignored this for too long, and it's affecting how we are governed as a nation. So we definitely have to look at the structure and what will it mean as a government. We have to look at the respect that they have for that structure, and what if they will be able to transfer that respect into institutions of government. And I think we all have to take off our blinders, no matter what political formation we support. Take off those blinders that we have, then look at these people with a holistic approach, from a holistic approach and honest approach, and say, why are they doing this? And will it serve us in the long run? Is it good for a nation for them to behave in this way? Thank you very much. I enjoyed the conversation, and I have to stress, there can never be no structure. There is a structure, it's just different. It might not be the traditional one, it might not be declared for certain reasons, and it might serve a purpose not to declare it or to declare it, but there can never be no structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tadini, for that. I know as a scientist, you will emphasize the importance of a structure. So thank you very much, Tadini, for that. Let's move on to our next speaker, Praise.
Thank you. I just wanted to respond to a lady who asked a few questions about how structure has helped the country. She started off by saying that, there's people who know everything. Unfortunately, we live in a democracy, and the people who vote, there's going to be people who vote who know absolutely nothing. There's going to be people who vote who know a little bit of something. There's going to be people who vote who know um, a lot about other things. We live in a democracy. All of us together, regardless of what we know or what we don't know, we have to combine our money to form the national taxes. We have to combine our workforce to make up the national workforce. We combine all our efforts to make a nation. So those who know, those who don't know, all of us, when it's crunch time, we're all in the same place. And ultimately, we all have to make a decision that works best for everybody, regardless of what you know or what you don't know. She asked and she said, well, what have structures done? And a lot of people have said that structures are always there, whether you like them or not, or whether they work for you or not. And as much as structures might not have worked.
Praise, are you still there? Okay, I think she might be having internet challenges. Let's move on to our next speaker while we wait for her, Munya.
Thanks, Lynette. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thanks a lot. It's just unfortunate that Omi just left. But I just wanted to say about this structures thing. Well, when they left, or let me start by saying, uh, I don't know why. I can see most of the people who are saying structures, these structures that most of them, they are ZANU-PF either, or they are so-called neutrals. I don't know why they are so much bothered and they have the audacity to speak about what's happening in the CCC. I mean, what do they have to do about, like, from what point? I don't know. I wanted to ask, like, the guy who I don't see him now, you know. So my point is, structures or no structures, I'm happy with what CCC is doing, because whether we like it or not, most people, even when Komich was here, he was talking about CCC. In fact, Komich was bitter or is bitter because what is those structures done to them when they left with the so-called MDCT party, when they left Chamisa and then him and Monzon, what is those structures taken them to? Where is those structures taken them to? You know, so structures in CCC, when they say we don't have structures, all of those people, they are said to be interim guys. No one is elected at the moment. All of those positions, they are interim. Whether it's a tactic, whether it's a strategy, or whether whatever they want to call it, I'm happy that CCC is the way that is, because with structures, there's so much infiltration. We have seen what has happened before with the likes of Komich and the likes of Ngonzora before, with their so-called structures. So now to come here and have the audacity to speak about structures in CCC and to tell us not to be fooled that CCC this, CCC that, no, Lynette, unfortunately, I might have to stop here and then maybe I'll come back again.
Thank you very much, Munya, for that. I think in my introduction, I spoke about the issue of structures being a topical issue and not just referring to Triple C. There are issues of cell membership in ZANU-PF, issues of, appointed members in the structures in MDCT, and the issue of structures in the Triple C. So I think when people were then giving their submissions, they chose to give an example, with a certain political party. But the aim of this program was not to look at just one political party, but to say what is the importance, because it's very topical. One speaker spoke about how it's important to respect the decision of the grassroots, which are the structures themselves. So this is why we are having this debate, but not to say why does so and so not have a party. But I don't know that to say it's unfortunate or fortunate that in people's response they would end up then mentioning a particular party. But thank you very much for your submissions. I hear you loud and clear.
Just one more thing. Sorry, Lynette. Also,
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to ask. We have seen, we have multiple parties in Zimbabwe that have structures.
The individual on the ground has a right to exercise power. They determine their destiny. They are engaged in the issues that affect them, the issues that affect their future. From there, they are able to see and to engage on a broader level to see who can represent those interests and who can champion those interests. So if political parties do not provide that to people, it becomes a disservice to the individual on the ground. So I think that political parties should have structure. It is also a way of communicating their message. It is also a way of encouraging engagement and broadening our democratic space. So that I would want to take it from that angle, that structures are key. And I also wanted to just maybe point out the idea that we once went through during the Tsvangirai era, when I remember, if people here would attest to that, where people would say even if there was a baboon there, we would vote for it as long as Tsvangirai is our leader, as long as it is MDC. Then later on, obviously there was a lot of we had constituencies where people began to look for options, political options, because whoever were representing those people in their constituencies weren't delivering according to expectation. So the idea that people get to be elected on the back of one individual on the top has not served us well before. I don't think it's going to serve us well again. So basically, that's one thing that ought to be discouraged. Individuals should go out there and engage on themselves and on their merit. Yes, the party helps you. The party is only an organization to provide these things and opportunity and training and sort of champion from an organizational level the interests of the people, because there's better clout in an organizational structure than in an individual. But that should not negate the role of an individual to engage and to showcase what they are able to achieve, and on that basis be chosen to represent the people. So I think that should be, it should be key to have political structures that give effect to our democracy as enshrined in our constitution. Thank you very much. I'll end there.
Thank you very much, KK, for those submissions. Let's move on to Jessica.
Thanks, Lynette. Mine are questions, not necessarily a contribution. So my questions are in regards to party structures. So maybe let me put them in two, and hopefully Komichi or whoever who's supporting structures can actually then answer, because I don't have an answer to that. So how have party structures helped political parties make better decisions in the case of Zimbabwe, right? So how have political structures made leaders make better decisions in terms of whatever? It could be choosing leaders who are coming from wherever. Does that have an impact on how they do decision making? So that's the first question. Then the second question would be in regards to the same thing, which is party structures. I genuinely think that in Zimbabwe, a lot of people, and I've seen that a lot on Twitter, we are very much opinionated. So when it comes to finance and economics, I am very much opinionated. Numbers, math, figures, I'm very much opinionated. I never dig into farming, into medicine, into this and that. But you'll find that a lot of people, and you'll find them even on spaces, right? They recommend what they think should be done to be what should be done, right? Not necessarily that what they are saying is correct. So you'll find them in a space or tweeting about farming. You'll find them in spaces where they're talking about medicine. So you've got people that know everything, right? And that are recommending anything, right? And not that I'm saying that it's a bad thing. There are people that are obviously encyclopedias and they probably know everything. But in regards to structures, right? Is it that is how we have formed Zimbabwean politics? That's the second question. Is it that we now have Zimbabwean politics which should have a certain form or a certain direction or a certain way of doing things? Have we ever considered of politics outside of the scope that we know? And I'm not here to say Triple C or ZANU-PF or MDCT or whatever must have structures or must not have structures, but are we myopic in such a way that what we think is politics is what we are recommending? And yet you could go to France and then there could probably not be any structures. You could go to China, there could be structures. You could go to Thailand, there could be groups of people that are doing something and not necessarily structures. But in case of Zimbabwean politics, are we not just recommending what we think we know, right? Or we are recommending things that we have only been exposed to? So those would be my two questions, Lynette. I'll drop down now.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for that.
I need to drop as well myself, right? I'll respond to those two things. But I think
Just hold
yeah,
on a bit.
please,
Just
if
hold
that's
on.
okay.
We have a bit of a queue. I know you've got your hand up. I was gonna call upon you. Just hold on. Just one more person. Let's have what's his name? Hulu come through.
Hello, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Um, I just want to say that I don't think that many people understand exactly what is the meaning of a structure. A structure to me is, of course, very, very important. The majority of us Zimbabweans are also Christians. God Himself, when He created the heavens and the earth, He started by saying, there was God, and there was the Holy Spirit, and there was the Word. That was a structure. And the devil was given his own position in heaven. But when time went by, we know the story of the devil. He refused to be in the structure in heaven. And the result was that Eve was deceived by the devil, and everything became very, very terrible. And here we are again. We have a history of a political party that was born out of dissociating itself from a structure, and they continue to come up with new ideas to represent the public. The reason why people want a structure in a political party is because, number one, it is through a structure that we get to understand the culture. That is the identity. To identify yourself as a Zimbabwean, identify yourself as a political party. And because you expect people to vote for you, people need to know who are you. So it is not like people are interested in having this political party having a different structure. The supporters of on this space, they themselves are confused about what is going on. The other one says it's a top-down structure and a bottom-up structure. The other one says you can build a house in the sea, and if you go to Binga, you build a house on top of a mountain and things like that. There is confusion. Nobody knows what is happening because there is no identity. If you walk into OK Supermarket, you are able to identify that this is OK Supermarket. If you work with Econet Wireless, you know this is Econet. Net One, this is how they do business. So the fact that ZANU-PF could have a structure, but they maybe not follow that structure, does not mean having a structure is a bad thing. Having a family is a structure. There is a family structure, but it doesn't mean that the man in that house may not cheat, or the woman in that house may not cheat. They may do that, but does that mean that we no longer need a family? We need a family because then you are able to be identified as Lynette. You're able to identify Mr. Morgan Comich by his name. That comes from a structure. He is coming from the Comichi family. And you are able to identify and you can make a decision. Should I vote for this political party or not? So that's the first thing. The issue of a structure helps to determine a culture. The second thing is that a structure helps as well to determine the reward systems, the issue of finances. There is somebody who made a contribution regarding the issue of making financial decisions as well as making investment decisions as a part for a political party, especially in Zimbabwe. I agree with that. The issue of political parties actually trying to raise funds using their own resources, their own assets. I think that is much better because the more we continue to donate to people to be able to represent us, you are going to end up having a situation where when they get into power, they are now obligated to pay us back. And we do not want something like that. So a political structure, or let's say a structure in a political organization, is important for giving us that, which is the reward system. The leader of that political party, how much should he earn? And where is the money going to come from? How are the resources going to be distributed? I think that is important. Then the other aspect again, when it comes to structure, after I have mentioned the issue of identity, which is culture, and then I also mentioned the issue of reward systems, it is the issue of ethical leadership. So it doesn't matter whether in France there is a political party that is run in this manner, in China it is run in that manner. The fact that you say we don't have a structure, that is in itself a kind of a structure for you. But the problem of denying the existence of that structureless political party is that at the end of the day, people are going to get cheated, people are going to lose money, people are going to collect money in the name of that party. There is nobody that can be able to be accountable for all those activities that. Therefore, we are interested because we are voters. We are interested because we are Zimbabweans. We do not want chaos. There is somebody that mentioned that. We do not want chaos. So political organizations can use their own tactics. Mr. Morgan Komichi used the word strategy. I'll regard it as a tactic. So they can use different tactics to say, okay, we do not want to operate in that manner. But they should accept that that's how they are operating. The moment you say, we don't have a structure, but at the same time you say, we do have a structure, but we just don't want you to know. At the end of the day, what is going to happen? You are creating chaos. You are creating confusion in the society. And and nobody is going to understand who you are. And therefore, we all become obligated to one leader, one political individual whose interests we do not know. Then we have civil wars in the country, and we have all manner of things that we do not want. So we want peace in Zimbabwe. And for us to have peace, we need organizations that we know. We need organizations that have got an identity, a culture that we are able to know that this is Econet, like I said. This is Mr. Morgan Komichi's party. It believes in 1, 2, 3, and we are able to follow them based on what they stand for. So I believe we should not underestimate the importance of an organizational structure. There is a speaker that said that structures are not important. We need an alternative. An alternative is a structure, as long as we know that this is an alternative. Now you have a situation where a group of people say, we are an alternative, but we do not want you to know that we are an alternative. That is confusing. That is something that I cannot be able to follow, and that is something that many people are not able to follow. So politically, we want peace. Economically, we want a better Zimbabwe. And a better Zimbabwe will not be able to be achieved without clear economic policies, investment decisions, and financing decisions that a political party and a country should take. One speaker who mentioned the issue of the structure helping us to reach a certain objective. Because we are all Zimbabweans, we are all one people. We all actually want to see a better country, but we can have different ideas in terms of how we are going to achieve it. But thank you, Lynette. This is my contribution.
Thank you very much, Hulu, for that contribution. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Let's move on to our next speaker. I want Tawanda to come through. Tawanda, please, under a minute, just respond because this is your second round.
Okay, sorry, it's Shangani Warrior, but anyway, yeah. So basically, I was gonna respond to Jess when she came on, but she's done a run. I don't know why she likes running away from it these days. But I'll touch her in general chat. It was to ask her what did she mean when she's talking about structures. Was she meaning in relation to within the party or within a country? Because it was very vague in what she was trying to say. And then she was talking about going to Korea, not finding structures, or going to France and finding structures. And my comment to that was structures are common worldwide. And the example I was going to give was this space right now. You've got the host, and you have the co-host, and you have us speakers, right? That in itself is a structure. This space would not function if that structure was not in place. And with that, I bid you farewell. Thank you.
Just hold on before you go. She said, how have party structures made decision making better in the case of Zimbabwe? And
Yeah,
in
and my
regards to
question was
choosing leaders.
within the party or in the country, because the party is still in the country, or you want to look at them in isolation. That's why I wanted it to stay up. Then she can clarify that point, and then I could give a response.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll try to
No,
look for Jessica and get that.
it's okay.
Thank you very much. So let's have Tadini come through.
Yeah, hello, a great conversation. Am I audible, Lynette?
Loud and clear.
All right, thank you very much. You know what? I think I'm going to differ with a lot of people here. And I'll start off by saying that there can never be no structure. There can never be no structure in anything in life. There can never be no structure. So if you don't make a structure intentionally, a structure will make itself, or a structure would be made unintentionally. So you hear people have been using a certain political party as an example of a party that does not have a structure. And that is not true. They have a structure. The structure might just not be traditional, and they might choose not to declare that there is a structure. They might even choose to, or I think they're actually choosing to misdirect and say that there isn't a structure, which when you look at it itself is very contradictory. You come back and you hear that there's a president, there's a hierarchy, there's this and this, there's that and that, there's an SG. Already that is a structure. So someone can say we don't have a structure, but when you look at it, there's a structure. To the madness of the universe, there is already a structure also. When you look up in the sky at night and you see the stars are scattered, but when you go and you take a picture of a Hubble telescope, you see that there is a structure to it. There is an order to it in that madness. That's the saying that we can talk about here. By default, there is a structure that has already been formed. So I have to stress that there can never be no structure. There is already a structure. Then people who have chosen to misdirect and say that they don't have structure for their own benefit and the benefits of their political strategies. It could be a political move, and that is well accepted. That is accepted. If they think that it will benefit them politically to take that route of having a structure and then say they don't have a structure, let it be. It's a strategy. But when we look at it from an objective point of view and when we are being logical, there's already a structure, and the structure has been presented. You have been told who to go to, especially for journalists like yourself, Lynette. You have been told who is the party spokesperson. You have been told who's the head. Already there, you are speaking to a structure. I think what people are grappling with here is the unconventional nature of the structure. It is not the one that you are used to, where people would come and declare that we're doing A, B, C, D. When I look at it, it might actually look very similar to the old structures, but it has certain mechanisms that have been put in place that can, when I interpret it, can be a hindrance in terms of how do people become accountable, or how do people pass on their grievances. And I think the past weeks or months have shown where there can be challenges to that structure in terms of how to communicate grievances, because it's not the conventional structure. And the only person who knows why they've chosen, or the only group of people who know why they've chosen that restrictive structure, are the people that are heading that structure. And if you're being honest to yourself, you will notice that there's already a team that is heading that structure. If every Zimbabwean is being honest, Akunama structure and what, and we stop maybe the politicking, and then we sit down and just want to look at it logically, and we say, is there no structure? You'll find out that a structure is there, and maybe a very effective one, because it is actually doing certain jobs, roles, rallies, etc. So the structure is there. It's just an issue of people who are saying there is no structure for their own defense, and people who are failing to look at something and say, okay, that is a structure. Yes, they don't want to declare it, but that is a structure. What we would rather interrogate is what is unconventional about the structure and what dangers does it present to the people who choose to be supporters or to be participants. That is what we'd rather interrogate. To say, okay, if it is not written in stone, or if it doesn't look like this thing that we're used to traditionally, what would that mean for a disgruntled supporter? What would that mean for a donor who has put in their money? What will it mean in terms of expenditure and how that expense is being distributed? That is what we can talk about. But we will literally be kids. In fact, I think my kids are not that dumb if we pretend that there is no structure. We will literally be kids. I mean, we interact with that structure on a daily basis, and that structure has responded also. It also interacts with people also on a daily basis. The structures are important for anything. I think we can't also argue on that basis. But what we have to talk about is what is a successful structure and why do we think that structure is going to be successful? I think Jessica asked a very important question to say, has structures helped us out as a nation or as political formations? And I think for those that are genuine to their constitutions and to their structures, it helps in terms of electing the right people into office. It helps in terms of passing the grievances to the right channels or having things done, just being able to move things from point A, point B. I would like to give others a chance to talk, so I'll stop here and maybe with an example. Even when you gather with your friends, a structure automatically forms. There's one who's talkative. There's one who's a bit bigger than everyone. When you're about to get in a fight in a bar, he's always the one that stands for up front. There's one who knows how to control his drinking. He's always the designated driver. And there's one who talks too much like me. Maybe he gets to represent the group when there's a need for talking. But we never sat down and actually said we are now making a structure. So even in the event when you don't do it intentionally, a structure will always form. It's just whether we want to see it. And here, actually, I think it's intentional. A structure has been formed and has been declared, but people are just choosing to say that there is no structure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tadini, for those submissions. Let's move on to Blessing. So we're going to have Blessing, Peter, Arthur, then we go back to the Senator.
Thank you, Lynette, for giving me this opportunity to give my submission. I've been listening to most of the people who have been presenting their arguments. From the first instance, what I saw on this topic, I thought it's a general discussion which was seeking an objective consensus in terms of how do we deal with political parties with regards to their structures. And again, do we understand what is a political structure in what's on? So I find a lot of people, I think they were quite exposing themselves because they ended up, speaking about one particular part, which in their own opinion, they presume that it doesn't have structure. But I would just want to correct that there is no political party that doesn't have a political structure. The only thing that we should be talking about is who really appoints the individuals who make up the structure, because there is always a framework which is there to ensure that there is a structure, whether a department which monitors whatever that organization is doing. How do you account for that particular objective that you have as a political organization? And also, how do your supporters account your structures and so on? So these are things that most of us Zimbabweans, we need to be politically conscious so that we really understand why we have to support political parties. What are we really looking in terms of our objective, in terms of our vision as a country, and in terms of our progress. So I think a lot of people, we are getting it wrong because we are becoming very personal And I would really encourage you, Lynette, that sometimes you people who set up these spaces, it's good to direct the debate to its origin, so that it brings that that ground rule, and also it opens up to individuals who are just ordinary citizens. We have got a lot of ideas, because sometimes it's worrying, because you keep on bringing recycled individuals who have failed politically, and in terms of other people who come here and then they start having, a lot of arguments which are not even relevant or progressive in terms of what we want to achieve as a country. What we need is people to be very accountable to their political parties. How do they go about it? We are having problems in Zimbabwe because we are not having a chance to politicize and also to give our citizens the political consciousness and political knowledge of understanding. How do they go to vote? How do they choose their leaders? Who appoint individuals in those structures? Structures, they are meant to be appointed by the citizens. You have got supporters. Those supporters are the ones who are supposed to choose the people who are inserted in those structures. It's not something whereby you just come up with a structure of individuals who just appoint themselves to certain posts and so on. It's never supposed to be like that. We are supposed to have an objective and also an effective system, political system, that is demanded by the citizens, that is demanded by us. And it has to be the citizens who determine the behavior and the conduct of our political structures and our political leadership. But because we have failed to live to that standard, so political individuals, they do things of their own making, and ourselves, we just follow, because we are, that's when we can't even be able to account those people, because we were never participants in choosing those leaders. We have to emphasize a system whereby citizens are the ones who choose the leadership, and the structures, they have to come from the people. So, in other words, whatever people are assuming, there's no organization which has no structure. Every organization has got a structure, and every organization has got a framework. But that framework, it's about how do they appoint those individuals in those structures. That's the reality of the matter.
Thank you very much, Blessing, for those submissions. Let's move on to Peter.
Hello. Thank you very much, Sister Lynette. Space yamati created is very constructive. And this would out of Zagawanda, I think Satarwana Nkoma Blessing and what the likes other comrades are Panabas. Senator Morgan Komich, those Novakanyika is also. Kuna political party ngagone cooperator is nama structures. We identify Noguscouta my candidates in leadership through our structures. We communicate with the grassroots through our structures. We communicate with our leadership through our structures. As a government in waiting from all opposition party, I mean, I am from PDP. We are also a government in waiting. How can we prepare ourselves to take over from ZANU-PF when we don't have structures? Those structures represent the Shadow Minister of Finance, Shadow Minister of Health is being identified within our political lines. Ma structures ediyo atinengeti now. Sakatikati atina ma structures. That means pane patikuda kutamba nevanhu sirizo. It's either we are trying to avoid accountability, kana pane pakuda kuongororwa zvafamba sei nokuti hapana anozonomira achiti ndindenge ndiripo. Secondly, nepotism can contribute again. Because pachangotaurwa no hatina nguva toda kutora nhinga aenda apa tozviita pachikamarism. tichisiya vanhu ndozviri kuuraya nyika yedu zvamuri kuona zvikuisa kuti misangano irambe ichisplita ichidini. Munhu anouya akabereka chimuzukuru chake, mwari uya akabereka chimupana chake, chisiri kutomboziva kuti zvii zviri kudiwa. Saka mastructures edu aya kubva kuwati tinenge tine structure yedu yegovernment chaiyo mumaministry, totoidentifya vanhu, hatizongonhonga ngoti nhonga nhingi chete kana asina kutomboziva kuti zvinofamba sei. Ngatitsvagewo munhu ane ruzivo kuti uyu ari kufanira kuti tumise kuhealth, munhu uyu anozivawo here Red Cross kuwadi kwedu chaiko. Then we are building utano pati yekuti kana tikati izvezvi tatopinda mupower tinenge tichiziva kuti tinoo takarongeka. Tikatora munhu kuprovince level anogona kunotihedhera kuutano, tikatora munhu uyu anogona kunotihedhera kuministry of education, anokwanisa kuita, tisazozviita vice versa. Izvozvo zvemastructures pazvinotibatsira. I'm sorry to mention other political parties. Handiwanzofarira zvekutaura hangu misangano yevamwe. But mukazvitarisa discord rakaitika pafuneral yeThe late sister vedu Ali, very big prominent figures from one certain political party anobuda oti tichamwaya madrones manje, we can wipe this whole family. Mumwe uyo oti aiwa no, we are a non-violent political party. I'm talking of the top 6. Saka munoona kuti without structures discord yacho inoitika haizobuda zvakanaka. Saka muchidimbu ndikangotaura zvangu izvozvo, but chikumbiro chandiri kukumbirisa kuma all opposition parties, let us position ourselves as government in waiting. Yamirira kuito take over from ZANU-PF, zvisina bishi, zvisina hondo, zvisina mhirizhonga, zviri murunyararo. Our policies nezvatichaisa kuvanhu through our structures, izvozvo ndozvinoita kuti vanhu vatiteere. Zvekuti vanhu vari kuvhota here, tahwina here maby-elections aya kana kuti aya hatina kuwina, what comes? This is politics. Vanhu vanoungana mumastadium, vanhu vanoungana mumagrounds medu, it doesn't determine the outcome of the election. Izvozvo tine vanhu vamwe vane nzara, vamwe varoda kungononzwa kuti Mnangagwa ari kuti kudini, vamwe varoda kunonzwa kuti Mukomana Mudiki ari kuti kudini, vamwe varoda kunonzwa kuti vanei. With the experience we had, I'm sure I did work with Senator Komich ndiri muPretoria district. Ndofunga makambozviona paPretoria ndotapo taramba kuti ma-elections aitwe time yana Senator Chief Njovu tiri muPretoria. Ndo reason iyoyo nepotism iyoyo inoakuitwa nemastructure, panopedzisira pane maduplicates emastructures because hapana chiripo pozoti akushandisa structure yakati. It even happened tikadzokera kumasure Senator Komich, I think the last congress yatakaita na Tsvangirai yazopinda Senator Monzora as Secretary General, the structures were in shambles. Kusosvikira vatsvangirai vatobvisa bhatya kuti no, let me go down tinosota ma-structures tipinde pa-congress. Zvimbozvo mumwe akanga ashandisa kuda kudika ma-structures kuti agone kuwina. Saka ma-structures anokosha, vanhu veZimbabwe anokoshesa. Ndo matinokwanisa kuscouta talent, ndo matinokwanisa kuidentify kuti ndiani anogona kutimirira mangwana pane chakati. We communicate through our grassroots. Ndatenda hangu.
Aiwa maita basa Peter nemashoka matipaya. Let's move on to the next speaker, Arthur. I don't see Arthur anymore. I think he has dropped. Let's move on to the senator. Senator, please go ahead and respond to the issues that were raised, and then I think we will excuse you. There are people who still want to speak, but we'll give you an opportunity to respond to this, and we will release you from the space.
Thank you so much, Lynette. I would like to start by responding to what Jesse has asked. Abvunza iye kuti ma structures anoplaya what role or importance yawo ndeipi in making decisions. The major decision in ma structures in a political party is to elect a president. A president must be given the mandate to lead the organization and the mass structures through what we call the National Congress. So mass structures from various parts of the country or of various parts of the provinces vanouya vanenge vari enlisted as legitimate delegates kuzoelecta president wavo. So the president is then mandated. Then there's another key decision that these people make. They hold the president accountable because they are the ones who come employ, they come elector, so they hold him accountable. Which means that if the president does not meet my task akapiwa, the structures are in the next Congress, they will remove him. Vesa umwe futi leader. And in a structured party, munenge mune organs of the party, for example, the standing committee, the national executive, the national council, for example, the provinces and districts. In all these organs, decisions are made. You cannot take a major policy decision in a party without the authorization of these organs. Like in our situation in MDC, when we are taking a major decision to share Zion's National Council, which is basically the leadership from various parts of the province, ndovanouya kuzokupai decision, kukupai gwara, kukupai direction, kukupai the way forward. And munofana kuoperate out of their command, vanokupai program. Imimi mozoita execute that program on day to day. Kana makuda kuya futi nimwe decision zvakare munovashedza uya vokupai kuti munofana kuita chi, munofana kuita sei, munofana kuita sei. Saka ndo zvinoshandisa maorgans iwawo. So kana usina maorgans iwawo unoita problem. Pana mataura kuti kana uchida kutsvaga MP, you should use organs to elect. Kana uchida kutsvaga councillor, you should organs, party organs iwawo to elect. And if you want to put leadership, you need to use these organs again to elect leadership. Kana usina ma-structures iwawa ukange uriwe wega uri pamusoro apo, you are bound then to point vanhu vaunoda. Nepotism will come in, friendship will come in, and by so doing create a division akakura muorganization. Vanhu vanotanga kubvunza kuti ko wazosarudza uyu, wanonga uyu ukaisa uyu pachigaro, ini wandisirei? Wanonga uyu wapuwa nani mandate iyoyo kuti usarudze munhu wani? Saka the party inenge iri weak zvakashata. Inogona kungonakidza mazuva okutanga iwawo musina kuita that structures, but with time vanhu vanoguma vava kuboekana. But however, toda kuti ndikusimbisei, ndikutaurirei kuti hakuna organization muno muZimbabwe inogotka party isina ma-structures. Chinosiyana i-type of structures dzacho kuti akamira sei. For example, ma-structures eZANU-PF akasiyana ne-MDC, ogosiyanawo ne-NCA, ogosiyanawo ne-other political parties, but hakuna party isina ma-structures. Structure is a natural formation inoita. Kana even pakutaura chaipo ukasafollow a structure yekutaura unenge uri confused, you confuse my listeners. Hakuna naturally. Mutaura kuti mukangotora vanhu vaviri kana kuti vatatu mukangovaunganidza, even without pronouncing kuti uyu ndiye chair, uyu ndiani, vano structure on their own. Pane automatic formation inoita iri natural yokuti they becomes a leader, anotoleader ipapo. So this structure formation is not something chinogona kureplaceka. It's actually something that has been studied. Zvitori mabhuku zviri pai zvakatwa researched zvikatonyorwa ende zvinotorana nyika yedu. Wherever there are no structures, kunotobuda confusion, kunotobuda chaos, kunotobuda ma-conflicts ari serious and hazvigadzirisiki. So hakuna nyika, musanyeperwa my sister, inonzi haina ma-structures. France ariko, kuJapan ariko, kuChina ariko, kuAmerica ariko, wherever in the world hakuna chinhu chinorana chisina structure. That's a study yakatoitika, vanhu ndo zvinotodzidziswa kana kuzvikoro kana kupi. Hakuna, if you run away from structures, you breed confusion, chaos and destruction. So structures is a natural formation inotodikanwa. Thinking vataura vakawanda vakati mabuilding, vakati kupi dzimba dzokubhinga, all those are structures. The only thing iripo ndekuti they are different structures. There is no one fit for all. Structures anosiyana from different parts or depending the objective yamuda kuti muite, kuti what do you want to achieve, magoals enyu ndio anodetermina kuti muda kumawana kumabudisa ne which structure. So really structures are very important, and structures we cannot do without. So hakuna party structure in Zimbabwe yet for me. I know people are confused between CC and MDC. Remember, we are almost the same people. Tinozivana nemutupo nomutupo. We've been together, so there is hakuna party sina structure. As I said, one person said it's a tactic, someone says it's a strategy, but I know pane vanhu vakawanda vanotobhelievha kuti sure haina structure. Please don't be fooled. Don't be fooled at all. Never even entertain that kind of thinking. There's no organization. There's no organization. It's not structure. Zimbabwe, all political parties ana structures awo anotoshanda toriko kubva kuna president, kuna vice president, secretary general, national chairman, vese varipo, organizing secretary vese varipo. Ukabva ipapo woenda kumaprovince kuna na chairman, secretary, organizer vese varipo political parties vese, which I can tell you ZANU-PF has got structures, CCC has got structures, MDC has structures. Please, my supporters, don't be fooled, don't be lied to. Takuudzai kuti politics igame rikutambwa chete kumanage certain situations. Vari kuziva zvavari kumanager, why they are saying at time structures vari kuplay a political game, which is not bad. It's their strategy, it's their tactic, but they got the right to do that. And we are saying isusu today to discuss on the relevance of structures in political parties. We are not really discussing my political parties per se, my individual ones. No, we do not concentrate on that. I have to focus on that. Not focus on the relevance of structures in the party. And ndanzwa speaker by speaker achitaura nezve importance of the structure. And ndanzwa vashoma vati kune maparty asina structures aiwa inhema hakuna zvakadaro. Please don't entertain that. If you don't have a structure, you get into confusion and no one will fall into that trap. Saka, so far, Zimbabweans, inini, I think this is my last time to speak now. Ndinotenda ndafara hangu, ndinotenda zvikuru. Let's continue to debate and interact and share ideas. Structures dzinotibatsira kuita good governance. Good governance comes from a good structure. Unity, order in this country comes from a good structure. Good government itself in our structure. Good political party in our structure. Good company in the structure. Families to the structure. So I really want to appreciate what was Taura. I've also learned a lot out of what you were saying. Thank you so much, Leonard.
Thank you very much, Senator, for joining us tonight and staying with us this long. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night. So let's move on. So all the speakers who are up here are going to speak, and then after them, there are only 3 more people I will add, and then we're going to call it a night. So let's keep it short because we were supposed to end this at 9. So I'll have Tadini come through. Then we have Praise. Then we have Munya. Then we have Ruka.
No, thank you very much, Lynette. And I like that people are having an honest conversation. At least some, besides those that have been hoodwinked by the lies that come from politicians.
Exactly. Then, do you actually know what the communication or information flow is within that party if there are no visible structures that exist in themselves? It's okay to say, you might not want to communicate what they are, but I think we need to all agree that it is important that you have party structures in place, right? Whether there's all this smokes and mirrors about infiltration, for me, that's irrelevant. I think we should focus on the subject matter, which is you do need to have structures in place because it provides you with all the outlines. How then, as a political party, do you communicate to your members, let's say as starters? For you to know that there are members, you need to have structures which actually tell you that this is the role of members and how they fit into the whole organization in itself, right? And if you want to communicate your message to different areas, you can't rely on a single person sitting in one central place communicating that message to everybody. You need to have the structures and means of communicating that information and getting it out to everybody else. But you can't do that without having the right structures in place, because otherwise you have everybody talking on your behalf, because there is no structure which governs and also gives people accountability, right? So it's very, very important for me personally that any political organization that exists out there should have structures. In what form those structures do come out, right? There are different things. People were talking about vertical, horizontal. You can talk about it organizational ways. You can say it's matrix, it's flatacry. It all depends. But fundamentally, you do need to have structures in place. And that's my submission. I'll change my name back now to Leach.
Thank you very much, Shangani, for that.
You're welcome.
Shangani says that structures are important. There are different types of structures, but structures are important. They help you to show the hierarchy and deal with the governance issue and accountability. Thank you very much for that. Let's have Praise come through. Praise, please go ahead.
Hello, hi everyone. Most of what I was going to say was said very eloquently by the last speaker, but I'm just going to add on a bit more from where he left off. So basically, I very much agree with him that structure is about arrangement. You can't have a movement without arrangement. You need order. Um, and you find with political movements, the political party is based on a movement. So people will come together and they'll say, we have this thing that we deeply believe in, and we're going to come together as a group of people, group of strangers, and we're going to advocate and move this mission forward. So you need structure because you're going to need a difference between a group of people who just come together for a cause. For example, Dudula. Dudula are a group of people who've come together and they've said, well, we don't like foreigners, but they can't identify, they can't and they don't identify themselves as a political party because they don't have that structure that um, demarcates them as a political party, but they are a movement. Whereas within a political party, you have that element of structure and an element of having a movement. So, previously, when the CCC was the MDC, they had the constitution and a manifesto, which I found as very important aspects of the party, in the sense that if you've gone through and if you've read those documents, you will realize that if you were saying I'm a member of the MDC at the time, there are things that are expected of you as a member of the MDC. So you need to have a membership card. You belong to a particular ward. And because this is a movement and people have come together and said that this is something we're doing together, there is a mission statement, there's shared visions, and there's shared values. There are things we're doing together as a political party, which are important, which again tie into having structure. And I feel like this question is here, is in focus because of the element of structure, which goes back to when Morgan Trangirai passed away. When Morgan Tsvangirai passed away, what was supposed to happen with the party at that point in time was that the party was supposed to convene at the National Executive Council and vote in a new leader, but then things didn't go sort of in the way that they were supposed to have. I won't go too much into it, which sort of gave Coupe and Mwonzora a foot into the door to then compete and say, well, this is our thing, because Coupe at the time was a legitimate vice president of the party within the structures. And the structures mandated that there should have been an election at the executive council and things like that. So we're now posing this question again because this is a situation that has emanated from having structure. It's not to say that structure should be removed because of that, but it's just to say that structure also dictates how things should be done when some things happen and when some things don't happen. So there's also a difference between someone who's not a member of the party asking for structures because they might have their own agenda to say, well, why doesn't this party have structures? But I also think it's important for people who are in the movement and people who are in the party and people who share those same values to also consider the importance of structure and what it means to them. So for example, if you're a member of the party and let's say you have visions and goals of being a minister of health within that particular party, you need to know how that is possible for you in that party. So first, maybe you need to be a member of a particular ward, and then you need to be a member of a party for 5 years before you can run for a local election. Maybe you first need to be a member of parliament, um, or but you need to know how if you're going to be contributing positively within your party, you need to know the set steps and the standard steps that can make that happen for you. And I don't think you would like it if you were a member of a party and you were in the party for 10 years and you were working really hard to do something, and then someone just shows up one day and they're a really slick talker, and then the next thing they are given the seat to, or the opportunity to be the member of the Minister of Health before you, and this is something that you've been progressively working towards. I'm not saying that we shouldn't have smart people working together with political parties to move the country forward. I think it's very important if you have a political party that is in power. It's not to say everybody who's a member of that political party is going to be well knowledgeable in issues of finance, of health, transportation, and things, but it's good that they take people on board who are well versed in those things. But there should also be opportunities for people who are the core of the movement to see things through. So I think structure remains important, whether it's detractors obviously have their own reasons for asking for structure, but I think it's important for members to also want that structure for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Praise says that she cannot overemphasize the importance of structures. They're important on their own and for the members, for themselves. Thank you very much for that. Let's have KK, then Jessica.
Thank you very much, Lynette. Thank you once again for these platforms. Thank you to every speaker that has spoken before me. So basically, I think that political parties are not an end in themselves. Political parties are a means to an end. So I've also taken the liberty of perusing through the Constitution to find exactly how political parties are addressed in the Constitution. And if you would look at that, you would see that political parties give effect to our key tenets of our democracy, of our Constitution. They give effect to our democracy and also our right to choose, our right to, all those things. So they are not an end in themselves. So they must be seen to serve their purpose in our democracy. So we have a system in our democracy where we choose our leaders to represent us, to vote on key issues, and political parties give structure to that process. So in that sense, if they give structure to our political space and engagement, they themselves must have also structure. I think they should. It's my opinion that they should have structure. So basically, how do people get to know who must represent them, or how do they get to choose? It is through
structures, but those structures are again and again ignored, and the Constitution short-circuited to help those in power to get into power. So there's no commitment to a truly democratic dispensation. The whole point of structures is that it allows the ordinary members to participate in a meaningful way in the governance of the party, to formulate policies. And if you have got, to start with, some of the members, ordinary members out there, let's be honest, they really have no clue what they're talking about. Take, for instance, the issue of reforms, which I've referred to again and again. It is absolutely shocking that the majority of Zimbabweans out there have no clue what these reforms are. And yet, ever since during the MDC days, they were the ones talking of chinja, without knowing what is it you want to change. I think that is where we need to start addressing the problem. To say MDC has no structures, ZANU-PF, even if he claims that it has got no structures, it will deliberately ignore them anyway. So what is the point? But if we want a truly democratic Zimbabwe, we have to say to the parties, we want you to commit to structures, to commit to giving your members a meaningful say in the policy development of the party. And we want you also to commit yourself to free, fair, and credible elections where every Zimbabwean has got the right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. That has been lacking. ZANU-PF rigs the elections. So they have absolutely no respect for the ordinary person's right to a meaningful vote. MDC, for its part, Triple C, they are arguing that they can win rigged elections. In other words, they really don't care that the elections are rigged as long as they get into power. So these are parties that have got no respect of respecting the individual right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. And I think that is where we should be emphasizing. Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mkori, for your submissions. Let's move on to Forrest.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lynette, for allowing me to speak on this platform. It's a very interesting topic, as always. And thank you very much for everybody's contributions. They're very useful to some of us in trying to understand, I think, whatever innuendos are within the country, whether it be positive or negative. I'm quite happy to take them on. But going to this topic, it's a very, very important topic where politics is concerned. And I find that the lack of understanding of it in Zimbabwe is quite shocking, because when we talk about a political structure, we are talking about an alternative government, if I can say. Whether it be the current ruling party or whether it be CCC, for us, MDC, or whichever party you name out there. What I've found in Zimbabwe coming in, my understanding of an alternative government, not a structure. I don't want to talk about a structure. Like you have said, everybody can have any form of structure that you can find out there. So it's not about structures. It's about an alternative government. And I'm glad that the previous speaker who's just spoken just now, and I think my boy has just pointed out some of these things. There's got to be authentic and formidable alternative government, which should be seen as opposition, and whereby you do have people sitting on the fence from different parties who are willing perhaps, to join in other parties or join in an alternative government, is how I would like to talk about it, not as structures. So I would have thought that the topic should have been an alternative government rather than structures itself. Because as we are speaking right now, we've got movements, we've got political parties, we've got, organizations, we've got so many different things, whether they be real parties, whether they be decoy parties. There is some form of structure in all these structures that you're talking about. So we don't want to talk about structures because the structures are there. Each and every party that is out there, 160 something or 200 something parties in Zimbabwe, they've got a constitution of some sort. They've got some sort of documentation or dossier that they've got that they want to provide out there. But then it's not seen It's not there on the vicinity. So when you talk about an alternative government, you're not talking about a structure. You would have realized your structure's already in place. So to talk about structures within the rural areas, structures within the urban, that doesn't have any space in the topic that we're talking about. If we're talking about an alternative government, we're talking about a high level of governance that is supposed to govern each and every ministerial accord that is within Zimbabwe itself, to find a progressive form that can push the country forward, for us to have a self-sustaining livelihood, whether it be communities in different forms, business community, health communities, whatever community that is out there, depending on the ministry that they had. So we are talking about something that is really important here. So when you look at an alternative government, is how I would like to put it, you've got to have an asset-based structure. You should have an asset-based political party, where each political party has got its own, it's actually a company on its own that actually formulates its own policies apart from the governance of a country. I am not finding that in Zimbabwe at this point in time, whereby you've put out your political, your political mandate in the form of your policies, like some other people have said there, so that we've got a better understanding of, okay, what is it that you're selling to the people that is different from the current regime that is there, from the current government that is there? We all know in our country the issues that are there. We all know how ZANU-PF operates. We all know how opposition operates. We all know how each and every, we've had a trajectory system whereby we understand who ZANU-PF is, who MDC is, who CCC is. So I would have wanted for us to move on forward and discuss these things progressively for Zimbabwe, because all of these things that we're talking about are determining how we want to see our country. What is the future for Zimbabwe as we do these discussions? So we are talking about an alternative government, never mind structures. Like we are saying, movements have got structures. Political parties that are registered, they are not a political party as such, but they are a movement and all sorts of forms. So we really need to actually understand, okay, what is it that is required when we want an alternative government in Zimbabwe? Something that is formidable, something that has got an asset structure where its political party is concerned. What you find is when you talk about a political party, you're talking about a political party that has got its own assets, its own derivation of funds, whereby you build yourself up to a point where you're not questioning, okay, where are you going to get this money? Okay, everybody is entitled to be seeking out funds from international organizations, whether it be West, whether it be North, whether it be East, whether it be whatever. It doesn't matter where anybody's getting their funding from. It just depends on, okay, even ZANU-PF as well. If you look at their mandate as well, they do get money from all sorts of different countries, whether it be China, whether it be Russia. That's not, China does not belong, is not Zimbabwe. Russia is not Zimbabwe. Or wherever they're going to get their money, it's not Zimbabwe. Yeah. So we should not look and point each other in the wrong direction. Anybody can get any funds as long as there are some sort of organizations within the constitution that allows you to get money from them. It doesn't matter. Yeah, as long as you're falling within the constitution and you're not breaching the rights of the constitution in terms of where your donor funding is coming from, it doesn't matter. But what we need to understand is that the relevance of the issue of a better alternative government, whereby we can show identity-based politics, whereby we can show position-based, politics, in trying to determine, like all other people we're talking about, the structures that are involved, whether you're talking about the implementation of committees, the implementation of the Congress, the implementation of executives, the implementation of whichever fora that you have within the structure that you have as an alternative government, not a structure. If you're talking about the structure level, you're talking about something that is so small that's not equating to an alternative government that you're saying, okay, we are there to usurp the current regime that is there. So that's how I see it. So we need to understand, I'm sure we can talk about CCC. You've got to give them leeway because they've just said whatever faction that happened, they've had to remove themselves from this particular point. Then they've had to go and start their own structures. And then you've got to give them room to probably to start doing their own structures. That's what they've got. And then you've got for us who are coming in and we're new, we're formulating structures and we're putting all this these things in place. But then what you need is the question has got to come, I think, from has got to be given to the registration departments themselves. When we see all these decoy parties, these small movements, this whatever, do they equate to the prerequisites of what's required for registration of a political party when we are saying we want an alternative government where matters of politics are concerned? That is the question that we've got to pose ourselves as Zimbabweans. What is it that we want to see in an alternative government? Like we are saying, we want to see a foray of different ideas, a foray of different reforms. Like my boy, I don't know what you were saying about, okay, you challenged the political reform where the Companies Act, was concerned with the reconstruction reform. Did it matter? Was it a duplication of a reform? We need to understand all such things. And then if I'm coming in as for us party, what is the alternative that I have? If they're mixed within a reconstruction and a Companies Act, policy, what do I have to offer as for us that is tangible enough to question as an alternative government, to say, people can believe enough that we are pushing our country forward? It doesn't have to be partisan. It doesn't have to be that you belong to this party. It doesn't have to be about violence. It doesn't have to be about, okay, how many cars did you bring in or whichever did you bring in. I like to look at the head of the problem. We've got a problem of a political matter in Zimbabwe. We need to come up with the tangible policies that are actually big enough to put our country back on the economic forum, whether it be on the international arena, whether it be on the local regional arena, whether it be on the localized arena. That's how I'm looking at it as for us government, as an alternative government. That's how I'm doing it. So if we waste our time and saying, structures and this and that, we know where CCC is coming from. We know what has happened with MDCT. We know what has been happening with ZANU-PF itself. I'm sure there are factions within their party as well. I think we know all of that as we sit on these platforms. But what is it that is best for Zimbabwe as an alternative government is, I think, perhaps the question that we need to pose so that we can actually realize in terms of reform, where is it that we want to see Zimbabwe? What is it that we want as Zimbabweans? I think as we forge ahead as a country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submissions. And now I'm going to go to Isaac, then Laz. There was one more hand. Who is the other person? Isaac, Laz. I think the other one has dropped. Let's, come in with your submissions in a minute, because you are just coming in not as the first speaker. You have spoken before, so I'm just going to give you a minute and then we move on.
Thanks, Lynn, for a second opportunity. I think we are now all over the show. We are digressing a lot from topic. The central question for this debate is it relevant to have political party structures? Yes or no? But at the end of the day, it's all about political strategy in our political movements. Because political structures, zvikonzero zvavo chaizvo hazvisi legitimate and hazvisi zvekuti zviri pakuda kubatsira vanhu ivava kuvakamsanga. Zvikonzero zvavo ukandibvunza ini kwedu kuUDA kuti tinawo nemastructures kana kuti hatina, ndogona kukudza ansa yandofunga kuti unoda kunzwa iwopo zvichienderana nekuti ndinofunga kuti ajenda yako pamubvunzo wako iwowo. Every organization it would have political structures anyway, but the extent to which those structures can be observed or not, it also depends with how political strategy is evolving over time. So ndizvozvo. Saka inini ndikabva kuUDA ndikadaenda kuCCC ndaunonzwisa kuti sei vachamisa nemastructure here kana havana. Kwendozvidii regai zvitaurwe nevaswera ikoko, inini ngandiite zvangu kusvika ndaswera. Kana ndakunyanya kuda kunzwisa kuti triple C kunoitike musangano usiri wangu, then I have a motive iri otherwise questionable. Saka tozviziva vanhu vanyanya kubvunza kuti vanoda kuziva kuti ma-political parties ngave nemakomisari ngagova nechii, because it is in their mindset that is their own expectations of how political organizations must run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Isaac, for that. Laz, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Lynette. My comment is about the lack of inclusiveness of our political structure. I think the debate about whether there are structures or not, we can agree now that all political parties have structures. But my comment is our political parties, they lack inclusiveness. For example, in terms of gender, both of our most popular parties, whether ZANU or CCC or MDCA, if there is a female on top of that structure, right, people, they will topple that female down. The example is Tokozani, Juru. So there's something wrong with our political structures. They have this tendency of undermining other people. There's always this tendency about maybe the geographical location. People from Matabeleland sort of like they don't matter. You don't see them in those political structure participating. There are issues like the youth in some political parties. You are only recognized as a youth when you are over 60 years old. Another example, if you are not from Harare, we are not sort of like an active structure. So you see a political party, it has only people from Harare. You don't even know anyone from Manicaland, and they are not even given opportunity to represent the party. It's just like silent like that. So the issue of inclusiveness is very important, because most of these parties, you can be biased and say, hey, CCC, they are doing this, even in your party, as a woman, go to the top of that structure, they will topple you down. They don't care, they don't value about other people. And the issue of inclusiveness is very important for us to talk about the relevance of our party structures, because a lot of things are undermined. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laz, for that. Sonny, you had your hand up. Do you still want to come through? Sonny, are you there? Okay, so if Sonny is not talking, let's go to Kurundai.
Thanks, Lynette. Thanks for the spaces. As usual, your spaces are so informative and educative. Unlike others, like Madam Forrest, and I noted other speakers, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to mention names, Lynette, allow me to say that. Unlike others, Madam Forrest, Salan, I'm not going to go off topic. I just want to address the topic of the day as it is. How, through kutenda Baba Morgan Komich, Baba Brahma, Matipa answer clear in the drama notes exactly what you said is the answer to the question, the topic of the day, relevance of political party structures. Thank you, Baba Brahma. Rambai Muchirarama. That's why Magangamuri, number one, the favorite of the late Dr. Morgan Tsvangirai. May he so rest in peace. Baba Brahma, Rambai Mchifamba Nacho, Manya Nacho, Baba Brahma. We love you in the political spaces of Zimbabwe. God bless you, Baba Brahma. Thank you, Lynette. Kuma listeners.
Thank you very much, Kurundai, for your submissions. Let's move on to the next speaker, Tiri Dambuzo. Please go ahead. Tiri Dambuzo, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you. Go
Hello.
ahead.
All right. It would betray relevance of party structures. But honestly, if you look at our country, Zimbabwe, my party structures, pane party actually now after that you respect my party. So what's the reason those structures you don't respect them? So for me, I'm going to whatever a party, the way it is operating on its how with structure, as long as it is respecting the people that it is representing. Is my party structure is
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your submissions. Anzi party structure ariko but nde api party no respect ma structures acho. Saka kana tisinga respect, what's the purpose of having these structures? Thank you very much for those submissions. Let's move on to our next speaker. Let's have Tawanda.
Thanks, Lynette. So, would you mind muting that other guy, please?
Okay.
Thank you. just to let you know, I've taken up this name today because that's what people are calling me. So I like to change my name every day. But you can still call me Shangani Warrior, which is my actual name. Anyway, just to respond to what the topic actually is, it says relevance of party structures. I think it's important to stick to what the topic is and not stray into all these other things to do with political parties of other people, right? But fundamentally, the political structures are there, and they help you in terms of actually showing you what the hierarchy within any party is. It also tells you and helps you with regards to governance, which helps you with accountability. It teaches you and it also shows you how information flows within that party in itself, because you don't want to just turn up to any person and start talking about certain things, and that person is not the person who is accountable or responsible for the thing you want to communicate or speak about, right? And also by having structures in place, it also gives you that separation of power, whereby power isn't concentrated in one single individual. It actually tells you where the center of power lies within the party in itself, and it allows you to have checks and balances in place, right? Because without all those things, your party in itself will not really function. Some people might think it does, but you can sit down and you can say any political party, if you try and compare it to a business, I don't believe that there is a business where even if you are the owner of that business, that you don't have